So welcome back to another rebuild here on NBA 2K25 Next Gen. In today's video, we are doing part 2 of the 3-team blockbuster deal that went down last weekend between the San Antonio Spurs, Sacramento Kings, and Chicago Bulls. And today it's going to be Zach Lavine to the Kings. I gave a lot of my thoughts on this deal specifically pertaining to the Spurs when we did the De'Aaron Fox rebuild yesterday. Today, we're obviously going to get into some more of my thoughts about what the Sacramento Kings got in return. Overall wise, I don't think they did a terrible job in terms of the value they got in this deal. Zach Lavine had been really good this season, and I think he's going to continue to do that here in Sacramento. The one thing I kind of question is going to be the direction of this franchise. So we'll get into some more of my thoughts once we do get into the video, but if Sacramento wanted to stay competitive, this was probably about as good as it was going to get, considering De'Aaron Fox had pretty much one location in mind. I will let you know in advance that I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon. If there has been another major blockbuster trade, maybe you are seeing this on Friday or next Monday instead. My plan as of now is to upload this on Thursday. So this is the biggest deal that we are currently working with, and I do think it is going to be an eventful trade deadline as we currently make our way through it. So I'm hoping another blockbuster goes down, maybe a Kevin Durant trade, maybe a Jimmy Butler trade. I don't know, man. It would be pretty cool. But let me know any other video ideas down below in the comment section. I will likely do a new look Bulls rebuild as well, but that's probably going to get pushed off until next week at a minimum. So I'm excited for this one today. Hopefully we'll get the Sacramento Kings into championship contention and hopefully get them to host a championship at some point. Let's get into it. Okay, as we have been doing all week, we are going to be using Start Today. Makes a lot more sense given the type of rebuild we are doing here at the trade deadline. Just in case you missed yesterday's video or you have been asleep all week and you didn't actually see the 3-team blockbuster that did go down, I will read it to you very, very quickly. Spurs are getting De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings, of course, the rebuild we're doing today, are getting Zach Lavine, City Sissoko, 3 future first-round picks this season from Charlotte. Again, it has protections, and I am going to respect the pick protections, unlike 2K as a whole. A 2027 unprotected first from San Antonio, and a 2031 first-round pick from Minnesota. Of course, also getting 3 second-round picks, but that doesn't matter really here in 2K. And then finally, the Bulls are getting Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and they are also getting their own first-round pick back in this year's draft. All right, let's dive into it a little bit. We'll go over this roster. I'll give you some of my full thoughts right now. My biggest kind of takeaway from this is that I understand the Kings wanting to stay competitive, wanting to stay relevant. This isn't a franchise that's had a lot of relevancy, so when you have a player as good as Domantas Sabonis, of course, just acquired DeMar DeRozan last offseason, of course, do have some nice complementary players. You don't want to just give that up because this is a franchise that has been in the mud for a very, very long time, and I understand it would have been tough to commit to a full-scale rebuild. That being said, I don't think that full-scale rebuild is going to be too far away. DeMar DeRozan is not going to be good for very much longer. Domantas Sabonis, while he is still a really solid player and probably will be for the near future, he's going to be 30 in a couple years. And is this team really going to be able to get back to, I guess contention? Would you even consider them contenders a few seasons ago? I don't know if the answer to that question is yes. And at this point, given the players they have, there's not a lot of financial flexibility here. There's not some superstar free agent that's going to be signing with this team. That's just kind of my 2 cents. Again, I think this could be like a 6, 7, 8 seed, something like that. I don't really see them much more than that, but I've been wrong before. I'll certainly be wrong again. Let's get into the roster. I moved Malik Monk to the point guard spot. I am assuming that is the way they're going to go about it, just kind of moving Monk from the 2 to the 1. There's not a lot of other point guard options on this team, so maybe a combo of him and Zach Lavine as the primary ball handler. I don't really know. Behind him is Devin Carter. Good to see him back and healthy, the Providence kid, a local man for where I currently reside. He's 22 years old. He's a 71 overall, and he's certainly somebody I'd like to develop throughout this 3-year rebuild. The shooting guard spot obviously acquired Zach Lavine. I think the biggest kind of thing about Zach Lavine right now is just going to be how consistent he can be. He's been pretty good this season. He has been, I don't want to say on a revenge tour, but has been really solid for a Bulls team that really wasn't doing anything. So I think in all honesty, the Bulls are probably happy to move off that contract. I think a team like Sacramento, who had to trade one of the faces of their franchise, but was still looking to be relevant, Zach Lavine was about as good as you were going to get. I don't think Jimmy Butler was ever going to Sacramento, so I think Zach Lavine makes some sense for them. Behind him is going to be Keon Ellis. He's 25 years old, basically an 80 overall. All likelihood will be my 6th man here for the first season and maybe many years to come. We have 22-year-old Colby Jones, who I'm not exactly sure where he'll slot in. We'll maybe eventually get him into the rotation if the scenario comes up where he develops to a good enough overall, and we're kind of just looking for some depth. The small forward spot, DeMar DeRozan. I'm not really sure how many great years DeMar has left. I would have loved to have seen DeMar get a championship at some point before he retires. Unfortunately, I just don't really see that happening in Sacramento, and I don't think anybody's going to be taking on that contract. So we'll see what we're going to do with him here today. He'll certainly be here for the rest of this season, and we'll make a decision come this offseason. The depth behind DeMar is not my favorite. We have 34-year-old Jay Crowder, 33-year-old. Is Doug McDermott actually on this Kings team, or is this just a 2K fill-in? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I know Jay Crowder is. And then, of course, Sidy Cissoko, who is one of the other pieces they got in the three-team blockbuster. So if he can develop, that would be really great for me, because obviously these two right here are not going to be 3-year backup small forwards here. The power forward spot, I was expecting more from Keegan Murray at some point. It just hasn't really happened, unfortunately. He had a fantastic rookie season, got a little bit better in 23 and 24, and it's just not there. I mean, look at that three-point percentage, the way it goes down by year. Just really kind of disappointing to see, especially for a guy who was a 4th overall pick. I'm not saying he's a bust or anything like that. He's still only 24 years old, but I don't know if he's going to be a starter for 3 years here today. I do not. Trey Lyles, 29, 1-year deal. We'll see. And then finally, Domantas Sabonis, who I still don't really think gets the credit for just how good he is. He's been a beacon of consistency. It's pretty much an automatic double-double most nights, and he's now the best player on this team. He might have been before with him and De'Aaron Fox. You can get into that discussion if you want, but he pretty clearly is now. And then finally, Alex Len. It's certainly a position I'd like to upgrade at some point in time. So that's the team. I don't know if I'm done making moves. Again, I want to be smart about this. I want to go about this in the sense that we don't just have 1 year. This is a 3-year rebuild. I'm trying to get that championship by the end of year 3. So we do not have to force the issue right now is what I'm really trying to say. And then finally, I'm sure many of you are aware, but there's always still somehow confusion. This is not a realistic rebuild. This is not a realistic rebuild. Got it? Good. Let's get into some trades. It's pretty clear that I've been looking for an upgrade at either of the backup front court positions. Yusuf Nurkic is not amazing by any means, and he is on a multi-year deal. If this was the real world, probably not a trade I ever make, but it's going to be pretty easy to flip him come the first offseason, and again, is a pretty big upgrade over Alex Len, even though Nurkic is not necessarily great. So Trey Lyles, Jay Crowder, both just on their way out, pretty much any way you want to shape it, and also both expiring contracts. So Yusuf Nurkic, welcome to Sacramento. And then for whatever reason, the Cleveland Cavaliers are willing to deal us Dean Wade, who is 28 years old, on a multi-year deal and a future first-round pick. For 74 overall, Alex Len, Doug McDermott, and a 2026 second. So, God, you just got to love the logic of this game, because this deal makes a whole lot of sense for a Cavaliers team who I believe has the best record in the league, if not second best, whatever the hell it is, between them and the Thunder. This is a real logical deal right there. But obviously in need of a backup power forward now, getting another multi-year deal there feels like a really big win for me. So I think at this point, we're going to have to make a decision on what we want to do at the backup small forward spot. Obviously, they just got Sissoko in real life, and there's an argument to be made that he should just get a little bit of run. I mean, it's not going to kill him. The kid's only 20 years old, but there's also the argument to be made that, hey, maybe play Kobe Jones a little bit. So I think I'm going to lean Jones right now. He's got a good frame. He's 22 years old. He goes up to a 72, which, again, isn't the be-all, end-all. But for a team that, I guess, is trying to be a little bit competitive this season, I wouldn't hate having, pretty much the best overall players in this rotation. So that's going to be it for, trades. I think the good thing about this team is we don't have a lot of major free agents come offseason number 1. So we are obviously going to hope that this team can end up in a playoff spot. As things currently stand, we're 25 and 24, and there's definitely a long way to go. So let's set that rotation. First season for us here in Sacramento. I guess first half of, technically second half of the first season. You understand what I'm trying to say. Here's how it's going to look. No major surprises in the starting 5. As I mentioned, we moved Malik Monk to the 1, moved Zach Lavine to the 2. Maybe not the perfect fit in terms of a backcourt. I don't know if I'd love either of these guys being a primary ball handler, but it may only be for one season, and of course, we'll figure it out as we go on. DeMar DeRozan here at the 3, 35 years old. Not sure how much great basketball he has left in him. That's not me saying that he's a bum or anything like that, because he's certainly not, but I'll be interested to see how he ends up aging throughout this video. Keegan Murray here, who was our lowest overall starter, and I believe is also the youngest player in this starting 5. So I got a lot of, hope and prayers for his development, because I think it is going to be a really kind of key piece to how this rebuild goes. And then finally, Domantas Sabonis here as our starting center. I will say we upgraded the bench unit just a little bit, especially at the top end. Of course, we had Keon Ellis by starting out this video, but any way you want to, kind of look at it, Yusuf Nurkic and Dean Wade are certainly a nice front court upgrade for this bench. I don't really think there's any denying that. And then behind them, the 2 young kids with Devin Carter and Colby Jones. So I'm excited. I don't necessarily think we're going to be serious threats in the Western Conference, but sometimes these things have a weird way of working themselves out. And I really do think Doug Christie's done a fantastic job in the limited time that he has been head coach of this team. Of course, took over from Mike Brown after he was fired. So I don't know. I really do not know what to expect. I'm just hoping we can sneak into the playoffs, and I'll see you guys at the end of year one. The first season has officially come to an end. It sees us finish with a record of 44-38. I don't think that's too crazy. It's probably going to be us fighting for the play-in, and we'll see if we can end up in the playoffs. Now, Nikola Jokic, what would that be? His 4th career MVP award. Alex Sarr does end up winning Rookie of the Year. He, of course, is in D.C. You got Bobby Portis, who ended up staying in Milwaukee. Maybe by the time you're seeing this video, he's been traded. I don't really know. Wemby wins DPOY. Amen Thompson, Most Improved. Talk about how much he has come on as just such a stud, right? I mean, his offensive game has taken another leap this year. The defense has always been there, but he is going to be really good for a really long time. LeBron James, your clutch player of the year, and Tibbs is your coach of the year, as New York ends up going 60-22, and it looks like they are going to be the 1 seed over there in the Eastern Conference. All right, we are the 9 seed, which means we're going to be facing Golden State. If we win that, we got to play the loser of this, and if we win that, it means we are the 8 seed and likely get the belt in round 1 from Oklahoma City. So here's a look at the standings. As I mentioned, 44 wins on the year. You know, we started out like 1 game over 500, so to end up 6 games over 500 isn't necessarily terrible. It was a pretty decent second half. But here's a full look at the West, and then we'll dive in and take a quick full look at the Eastern Conference as well. So let's go over some of the numbers. Again, these are going to be a bit skewed just because Lavine's going to have some of his old numbers from Chicago, and of course, some of the old numbers here would be when De'Aaron Fox was also a member of this team. So don't really take these for granted. We did not actually have 4 guys averaging 18.5 points a game throughout a full 82-game season. But there are the numbers. Keegan Murray, again, kind of just is what it is. I'm interested to see the 3-point percentage. You know, that's going up a little bit from the year before. It's not terrible for a guy who's, 6'8" and playing the power forward spot, but we'll just see. I'm really interested to see how his overall really develops. Yusuf Nurkic off the bench, Keon Ellis, Dean Wade, almost said Dwayne Wade, Devin Carter, and finally Colby Jones. Rebounds, we are led by Sabonis, same with assists. All right, so we have a long path to getting to the playoffs. We basically have to win 2 games against teams that are, I would say the Warriors are more experienced. Are they better as a whole than us? Probably not. They obviously have the best player in the series, but I don't really know. I do not know. And we lost. So no playoffs for us here in year 1. Kind of just is what it is. We'll sim through this again. We were never going to beat Oklahoma City in round 1 anyways. And Anthony Davis and the Dallas Mavericks are winning the West once again, and it is Karl Anthony Towns and the New York Knicks, 2 players, 2 big men that are on, of course, new teams this season. Sim through it all. Dallas wins it all. Kyrie Irving finals MVP. Could you imagine? Nico Harrison would never let pretty much the general public hear the end of it. I don't know, though. I still feel like Dallas fans would probably prefer to have Luka. All right, let's get into offseason number 1. I do not know if there are going to be any members of our organization retiring. It does not really appear so. Brian Keefe, Hall of Fame inductees, jersey retirements, and then the draft lottery. Do we have our own first-round pick this year? We do not. It says it is going to the Atlanta Hawks. I will double-check and just confirm the protections on it. I know for a fact that not only is the Charlotte Hornets pick top 10 protected, I will just actually read it off right here because 2K is going to say we have their unprotected pick next year because this is going to be top 10. We do not. It's not how it works. Charlotte's 2025 first-round pick to Sacramento, protected for selections 1 through 14, actually lottery protected, not 1 through 10. If this pick falls within its protected range and is therefore not conveyed, then Charlotte will instead convey its 2026 and 2027 second-round pick. So that's how it works the majority of the time. It does not mean it's just always going to be an unprotected first, whether this game wants to believe that or not. So I will double-check and make sure that the Atlanta Hawks are actually supposed to have our draft pick. Staff signing right now. Doug Christie's ratings aren't great. That makes me just a bit nervous. I'm not saying it's a championship or bust year 2. You know what? He did a good job with this team. I think he's doing a really good job in real life. So we'll hang on to him for now, even though the ratings and obviously the potential overall really wasn't there as well. Let me double check on our first round pick this year. Just want to make sure 2K didn't fuck up and we were actually supposed to have it, but I'll be right back. If you ever want to know how much this game really hates me, this is a prime example of this. As you can see, our first round pick, which 2K currently says is owned by the Atlanta Hawks, ended up number 13 in the draft lottery. If you had to guess what this pick was protected through, just the range, what do you think it's up to? If you guessed number 12 overall, you'd be correct. And of course, the pick is now still going to be owned by Atlanta because it is at number 13, which I guess the good part of it means our future, obligations are extinguished, but I feel like I would have preferred having like the 13th or 12th overall pick this year, but no. Another thing that I did, because this game is stupid, is I went ahead and I sent Charlotte back their first round pick next year because We're not supposed to have it. I did take the 2026 second round pick from them and 2027 as I was supposed to, but again, it's not nearly as valuable as that first. So we do have one second round pick this year, I believe. It's at number 9 from the Bulls. I'll just draft somebody. I don't really know. It's probably not going to be anybody good. Hunter Salas. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you people. I'm not. There's no way. This is not a real person. This is not a real person, right? I'm being trolled, right? I mean, I'm going to draft him because his name is Florian Big Dog, but there's no way this is a real person, right? I have to. There's just, I don't care if the players ahead of him would have been a little bit of a higher overall, maybe a valuable trade piece. The moment you can get somebody named Florian Big Dog, you're going to take that opportunity, and I'm going to run with it. I might have to keep him the entire time. I don't really care what the trade is. I almost feel obligated to keep him the entire time. Wow, that is awesome. Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis will both be brought back in their team options. Isaac Jones will be hitting unrestricted free agency now because we're not going to qualify him or anybody else here. Now, this is not the tricky part for the Sacramento Kings. This is just the reality, is that this is not going to be a team that has a lot of financial flexibility in terms of signing free agents. Again, I know Sacramento is not necessarily an A-plus destination for most guys in free agency, but it's just kind of eliminated that option as a whole. So what we're going to do right now is really address this team and this roster, take a deep, hard look at it. This is technically Zach Lavine's rebuild, so 9 times out of 10 in this situation, I don't trade the guy. Probably not going to start today. I think Zach Lavine is going to be here the entire video, but just wanted to put it out there that it certainly means we might have to make some tougher decisions elsewhere. We are moving on from DeMar DeRozan, and it is an interesting trade. Who would you rather have right now, DeMar DeRozan or Trey Murphy? I don't know. Trey Murphy's been balling lately. I'll let you know that. But the reality of this is that it's 2K. This isn't real life, and we unfortunately know how 2K's regression system works. And in all honesty, DeMar DeRozan will probably be around an 83 overall to start next season. We are getting 10 years younger, roughly same annual value. And on top of that, we are getting a first-round draft pick that could certainly be pretty valuable for us as this video continues to progress. So I'm not saying that DeMar DeRozan is a worse player than Trey Murphy is right now. That's just not the main takeaway you should have. But the reality is that in 2K world, this is a deal that I think makes a lot of sense for us. So thank you very much, New Orleans. I'm excited to see what Trey Murphy can do with this team. He's up to an 86 overall, by the way, which is really cool to see. But that is one trade down, and I think I have at least one more pretty big one to go. We're going to hit up the Orlando Magic and see if there's any level of willingness to maybe trade me Jalen Suggs. He'd obviously be a pretty big upgrade defensively in this starting 5. He is really just an overall upgrade, in my opinion. Malik Monk is good, do not get me wrong. If he could be used as a 6th man and we had the assets to acquire a really solid point guard without trading him, I certainly would look to do it, but unfortunately that's just not the situation we find ourselves here in today. So I'd like to add Jalen Suggs. I'm not going to lie to you. I know that we are actually going to be getting a counteroffer right now, and I know exactly what the trade looks like, and it is just the epitome of 2K stupidity because, yeah, that's a trade that they want. So they're going to get a first-round pick swap in 2028. Charlotte's second-round pick next year, and we're also going to somehow get Cole Anthony in this deal. So upgrades all around the board. I think, again, kind of feels like a highway robbery, but thank you very much, Orlando. And at this point, we've made, obviously, some pretty big moves. I wish Devin Carter was likely still going to be in the rotation, but Cole Anthony is just a better player. And I think, honestly, Keon Ellis is fine here behind Lavine as well. So what I could look to do right now, of course, I do have to find myself a new backup center, as much as I love Florian Big Dog here. He's probably not going to cut it heading into year 2, where I think we will be a better team behind Sabonis. So Dean Wade and maybe Colby Jones can stay, but I am definitely going to look to upgrade the backup center spot. Ooh, is this Vince Williams? I actually want to take a flyer. He got released, it looks like, which is certainly... Why was Derrick Rose here? What in the world? I'm going to take a flyer on Vince Williams. I think it's going to provide us some nice defense off the bench. And then finally, the center market is not perfect by any means. Maybe I actually look to do something that I might get killed for. If I trade Colby Jones and maybe... Actually, I don't have to trade Devin Carter. Look, I understand Providence, Fryer, I get it. Probably going to get a lot of shit if I do it, but if I can't find a center here that's a significant upgrade, I may have to, include him in a deal because he probably wasn't going to play as this video progressed. I can't find a center. God damn it. All right. I'm just curious. I'm just going to glance. Again, Kings fans, please do not kill me. God, he's pretty valuable, isn't he? Like Jalen Smith. Like, he'd be a pretty clear-cut upgrade for the backup center spot. And I'm actually getting a lot of really nice offers. Just unfortunately, a lot of these guys aren't centers. I got Nick Richards in a video the other day, so I'll chill on that. But we are going to do the deal here with the Bulls for Jalen Smith. Also getting a first-round pick from the Bulls in 2026. And that is probably going to be pretty valuable because they kind of suck, if I'm being honest with you. So I don't want to trade Devin Carter. I don't, but we also don't really have a spot for him in the rotation, and we desperately do need a backup center. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Sacramento fans. I know everybody loves Devin Carter. I do too, but you cannot think with emotion. You got to think with logic. All right, that is it for moves here in terms of offseason. Number one, heading into year two, I think this team is in a much better spot, and I'm really excited to see how this team kind of shakes out. Second season here in Sacramento, the first full season, if you will. We obviously made some pretty big trades this offseason. I think they're all moves that are going to benefit us greatly. Now, that being said, if you can take a look at your screen right now, you'll notice probably two things that jump out at you immediately. One of them, a little bit more expected than the other. I kind of assumed that Zach Lavine, because he's basically 30 at this point, if not he already is 30. Is he 30? He's 30. I expected a little bit of regression. Trey Murphy, on the other hand, who's 25 and just came off the best season of his career, I did not necessarily expect to go down 2 overall. So again, he's probably still a higher overall than DeMar, and I still think he's a better long-term option. But just goes to show you how really, really fucking stupid this game can be. But Jalen Suggs, Zach Lavine, Trey Murphy, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. Also, Keegan Murray just not moving at all in the overall department is not my favorite thing in the world. Bench unit will still be led by Keon Ellis, of course, made the trade to acquire Jalen Smith, signed Vince Williams Jr., brought in Cole Anthony, and then Dean Wade still here as well. So I think this bench is better than it was a season ago. I think the starting 5 as a whole is better than it was a year ago. And I'm really hoping that Doug Christie can do something with those ratings because that's maybe the one weakness I kind of see right now. But I'm excited. I think this team's going to be fully in the playoffs this year and hopefully top 5 seed. I don't know. Am I getting too ahead of myself? We'll see. Even though all the moves that we made were, logically speaking, pretty sound in this game, we knew they were still a bit risky. And that risk has paid off, at least for the regular season. We go 63-19. Obviously, it's our best record yet. And we're going to find out real soon if this team's an actual contender or this was just a Cinderella season. I know that's kind of a crazy statement. Through an 82-game year. SGA finally breaks through, gets that MVP award. Cooper Flagg, your Rookie of the Year in Toronto. Also wins 6th man. Why? I have no idea. Wemby wins another DPOY. I actually do not remember the last time in one of these like modern day rebuilds that anybody besides Victor Wembanyama won a Defensive Player of the Year. I don't. Delano Banton most improved. Now remember the Clippers. You got SGA also taking home Clutch Player of the Year. And our guy, Mr. Doug Christie, your Coach of the Year, even with the scary bad ratings that he does have according to 2K. So we're only 2 games up on the defending champion Mavericks. Crazy to say after they traded Luka, but it is the truth. All right, let's go over some of the numbers real quick. Zach Lavine led this team in scoring. Domantas Sabonis, Jalen Suggs, Keegan Murray, Trey Murphy. Thought he'd do a little more in the scoring department, but I guess not. Jalen Smith, Cole Anthony, Keon Ellis, Vince Williams, Dean Wade. Rebounding department is Sabonis, and assists is also Sabonis. So, first round, us in Memphis here. John Morant, Desmond Bane, Gigi Jackson, Jaren Jackson, Clark. I'm not sure why Zach Edey's not starting. Jalen Wells, Scottie Pippen Jr. Yeah, they're pretty good there, especially for a playing team. So, I will not take this lightly. We are up 3-0, and we do sweep. Okay. Now here comes a real test. MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There are 390-plus overalls on this team. They are obviously very sound defensively. They have an elite bench unit. I mean, there's just not enough good things to say about the Thunder, but they are a 4 seed for a reason. So let's see what happens here in the second round. We're down 2-1, tie it up at 2-2, go down 3-2, and we force a Game 7, and we win that Game 7. All right, it is now time for the defending champs. The Dallas Mavericks here in the Western Conference Finals, almost said East. Jaden Hardy starting at the 1. I would have maybe moved Kyrie there, but he's staying at the 2. They somehow acquired Keldon Johnson. AD, Derek Lively, still got Gafford off the bench. Also have Jonas Valanciunas. Not sure how many big men you need. PJ Washington is still here. At this time, I'm also aware that Quentin Grimes has been traded. I know him. The Dallas Mavericks made another trade, this time with the Philadelphia 76ers, and of course got Caleb Martin in return. Why? I don't really understand, but that's neither here nor there. So let's see what happens. We are up 2-0 real quick. They do win Game 3 at home and Game 4. We win Game 5, and we are going to Game 7 once again, which we win. And we're in the NBA Finals for the first time in this video, taking on Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers. You got Halliburton against his old team. You got Sabonis against his old team. Honestly, to this date, one of the bigger win-win trades you can find in NBA history. I mean, again, I understand neither team has won a championship or anything, but in terms of value and just how good both players are, it's pretty hard to find like a more even swap than that. But there are not a lot of major changes here. Mitchell Robinson's a nice new addition for this group, but the core as a whole of Indiana is still intact. We're up 2-0 right now. Make that 3-0 and potentially championship here in year 2. I didn't see it coming. I'm not going to lie to you. I was hoping for a top 5 seed this season. Not 63 wins in a championship, never mind a sweep in the finals, but it looks like that is going to be happening right now. So why the hell not? I personally was not really of the opinion that this team was like clearly good enough to win a championship. And that's not to say we've dominated every series that we've been in, because that just wouldn't be true. We've gone to 7 games twice, but I just didn't see this one coming, at least right now. I knew we were going to be competitive. I was hoping, as I mentioned, for a top 5 seed. And of course, we were lucky enough to make it through somehow. So, I'm pretty happy at this point. Of course, that doesn't mean that the video is over. We still have one more season to go and hopefully another championship to win. I just really did not think that would be happening. I want the starters in. All right, let's just kind of play around here a little bit. I'm not going to do anything too crazy. I mean, we still have a, pretty big lead at 19 points right now, but I guess we can just talk about the actual Sacramento Kings, not the team we've constructed here. Typically what we do in these situations. So I think the biggest thing for me, for them is, what is your end goal, right? What is the goal when you look 2-3 years down the line? What would you consider a success if you're the Sacramento Kings after this move? And again, they're put in a pretty difficult position because they're trying to maximize the return they get for De'Aaron Fox, who is 27 years old at this time, 26, whatever he is. He's young enough where he's still super valuable, and he makes that a little bit tougher by saying he pretty much wants to go to the Spurs and the Spurs only. So, I think the draft assets they got are not going to end up being super valuable. There's a, pretty strong likelihood that the Charlotte pick is not going to be an actual first. Will probably end up being 2 seconds. The San Antonio first in 2027 will probably be in the 20s. By that point, because Victor Wembanyama will probably just run the league. I think maybe the one valuable draft asset they maybe got there is that 2031 first from Minnesota, which I don't believe has any protections. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's certainly a world out there that maybe Anthony Edwards isn't a Minnesota Timberwolf by then, and that draft pick, if they are rebuilding, could end up being pretty valuable. So that's maybe the one positive you can take away. Of course, getting Zach Lavine is, solid enough as a return. Zach Lavine had kind of just changed the entire perception around him as a player and an asset. Pretty much this season alone, a lot of people saw him as like a guy that Chicago would probably look to salary dump. And in some ways, they probably did want to do that still, but he obviously worked his trade value up. And so, I'd give Sacramento like a B minus for this deal. They didn't get any draft picks that are, immediately going to be super valuable and that are really blue chip trade pieces. And of course, Zach Lavine is not getting any younger. This is not a roster that's super young and is going to be really good in 5 years. They're going to be worse. So I don't know if it's going to get them over the hump. The end goal, of course, for everybody is to win championships. But if they want to stay relevant and, lose in first round year after year, it's probably exactly what they're going to get. So that's a championship for us. I will see you guys with the finals MVP. Always love getting it done in year 2. Obviously alleviates a lot of the pressure heading into the final season. Domantas Sabonis, your finals MVP. Certainly doesn't mean the video is over, though. Still got a year to go. LeBron James officially calling it a career. Same with Russell Westbrook, Brook Lopez, Kevin Love, James Harden. They done sent him out to Utah for a year? Okay. Staff retirements, wow. 2 legends and Luke Walton. All right. Hall of Fame inductees, no surprises there. Draft lottery time, of course, we are. Let's just see. Is Charlotte in here? Yeah, they're projected the 4th overall pick. I'm really just begging 2K to fix the protections here. It's not that hard. Miami ended up with number 1 overall. We will bring back Doug Christie if I'm able to find him. Again, not a guy I obviously get all. Oh, God, there's so many good coaches here. But we did just win a championship. Oh, my God. How many good coaches are here? Where is Doug Christie? Am I just missing him? You know what? I'm not going this far out of my way for a coach that doesn't have good ratings. I'll offer Missoula. We also don't probably have a ton of money. I'll offer Claude Phillips, whoever the hell you are, and then I'll throw a little money at Stauffer because why the hell not? Hopefully one of them accepts. Claude Phillips, sure. I don't know. I wanted to bring back Doug Christie. I certainly wasn't going to waste my time looking for him, though. All right, at this point in time, we have the 16th overall pick from the Bulls. I believe that's a previous trade. I do not believe that Bulls pick. I'm not actually sure what that's from. Are we supposed to have? Let me fact check. I don't want to have a pick I'm not supposed to. I'm dumb. I just remembered we got that in the Jalen Smith deal. Because I was like, what in the world? How did we end up with that? And I checked, and it said that Chicago currently owned their own 2026 first, and then I remembered that came from the Devin Carter, Jalen Smith deal. We're supposed to have it. We also have number 30 overall. I'm not exactly sure if we want to use both of these picks. I think there's a world out there where maybe I look to make a little upgrade somewhere off the bench, like maybe the backup power forward spot, but unfortunately not a lot of guys here are really under contract, and I kind of want to hang on to these three. And again, Cole Anthony, somebody we're going to have to extend. So what I'll do is I'll see how many spots I can move up without giving up like significant assets, because as of now, we sit at number 16. So if I can do 16, 30, and then like, I don't know, who is like the 10th overall pick? Or is this 9? This is 9. Another deal from the Bulls. Can I get this done with like just seconds? That's what I'm going to do. No other draft picks besides these seconds, and if they don't take this, they do. All right, the 9th overall pick in the draft, probably not going to be anybody super, super solid. Nate Ament. It's a position of need. Why the hell not? Sure. Welcome to the team. 6'10" out of Virginia. Going to come in at a 76 overall. Lavine's going to end up picking up his player option. Oh, Cole Anthony actually also had a team option. Did not know that. And of course, bringing back Florian Big Dog here. So no real surprises there. Keegan Murray will be entering restricted free agency. I'll let you know right off the rip, if we did not win a championship last year, then I would have probably looked to move on. Clippers are actually offering him a 3-year, $50-ish million deal. We'll just beat that a little bit. We're going to match it anyways. Same with Keon Ellis. And then honestly, I'm going to let Dean Wade go. We just drafted somebody who's a higher overall and certainly younger than he is. So yeah, that's cool with me. All right. I don't know if any other major changes are coming. You know, I don't like leaving things exactly identical year over year. I know we made one change here with Nate Ament at the backup power forward spot, but honestly, I don't really see a reason to force the issue. I mean, this team did just win a championship. So why not? Third and final year here in Sacramento. Couple things to note. Zach Lavine continues to regress. Not crazy surprising knowing how 2K works. It's not like his numbers are bad. That's the one thing that kind of gets me. Like, I understand as players, get older, they're certainly going to get worse. But if the numbers across the board aren't getting significantly worse, why would the players overall, right? That's just kind of my logic anyways. Maybe the 82 overall is a projection for this season. Just 2K. Him and Jalen Suggs remain our backcourt. Trey Murphy still here at our 3. Keegan Murray just has not moved in the overall department at all throughout this rebuild. So thankfully we won that championship. Pretty much the only reason he's still here. And then still got some bonus at the center spot. Bench unit did not really change much. Keon Ellis remains the 6th man. Still got Jalen Smith, Vince Williams Jr., and Cole Anthony. And of course we drafted Nate Ament, who will just replace Dean Wade at the backup power forward spot. 10 minutes a night. Do have a new head coach in Claude Phillips, who apparently has perfect ratings. Doug Christie did not deserve to be fired, but I couldn't find him, and I was certainly not going to exude much more energy in looking for him. So I don't know. Can we go back to back? Let's go see. I think I would pass out and maybe stop watching the NBA as a whole if this happened. I'm talking about the guy who just won an MVP playing next to Victor Wembanyama, that being Luka Doncic. Yeah, I genuinely do not know how I'd react. I would actually probably quit the sport, because what would be the purpose, right? I mean, the Spurs would just win every goddamn title. I think that we were probably all in agreement on that. Back to this, we did not have as good of a year as last year. We were 55-27 this season. Certainly not a bad, year whatsoever, but maybe we're not as dominant, and maybe a move should have been made. But yeah, Luka winning an MVP next to Wemby is pretty much the scariest thought of my lifetime. AJ DeBant still went number 1 overall to Miami. He wins Rookie of the Year. You got Cooper Flagg still coming off the bench for God knows what reason. I can't believe they cannot find a way to get him and Scotty in that same starting 5 together, but can't figure it out. Speak of the devil, Wemby wins a 3rd straight Depoy VJ Edgecombe Most Improved. Paolo is your Clutch Player of the Year. And Billy Donovan is now the head coach in San Antonio after Greg Popovich retires. All right, we're a 4 seed. Wow, 55 wins, a 4 seed in the West. It's the reality of the situation these days. I mean, we're only 1 game behind the 2 seed, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and talk about the numbers real quick for this team. Any notable major changes? Jalen Suggs now leading this group in scoring. Zach Lavine still putting up pretty strong numbers. I don't really know. Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Trey Murphy, Smith, Anthony, Ament, Williams, and Ellis. Keon Ellis was our last scoring option as a 6th man. Interesting. Sabonis led us in boards and assists for the 3rd straight season. All right, well, it is us in Memphis in round 1 once again. They are now out of the plan. They added Jabari Smith Jr. to their team, and Jaden Ivey as well. Okay, I wouldn't have personally moved on from Jaren Jackson Jr., but all power to you. We're up 2-1 right now against the 5 seed. They do tie it up at 2-2. We go down 3-2. We force a Game 7, and then we subsequently lose. Disappointing. I get questions sometimes, like when I win championships in year 2, and I don't end up making any major moves heading into year 3. pretty much the logical thing to do, like we did today. Sometimes I make moves, and then people say, well, why would you change things up? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, which a lot of the time is my logic. I'm not saying you're wrong there. But for situations like this, where I think it wasn't a Cinderella run, because that's hard to say throughout, winning 63 games in a regular season and then winning 16 in a playoff run to, of course, win a championship. It just felt like I maybe should have made another move, but I decided against it today. And you live and you learn. End of the day, we still won a championship, and I think Kings fans would take this 1,000,000% across the board if it was actually to happen. So I gave you my thoughts on it. Again, I don't necessarily love it from the non-flexibility the Kings are going to have moving forward, because nobody's going to take on the Lavine contract moving forward. I don't think so anyways. Not that they're going to look to move him after a year, but he only has 2 years left confirmed, and then has to have a player option after that. So nobody's probably taking on the DeMar contract. So I don't know. Like, I understand and I respect wanting to compete and win basketball games, and I do think there is a time to do that. I just don't know if this was necessarily the case. I think they're kind of delaying the inevitable here in some way, shape, or form. I think they are eventually going to be forced into a pretty much full teardown and full rebuild, and I hope by that point that Domantas Sabonis didn't lose trade value, or Keegan Murray didn't lose, or Malik Monk, like whoever it is going to be. I just hope they don't put themselves in a worse position. So I understand why they did it. It's a tough spot to be in when a guy requests a trade and basically says, I want to go here, and this is the only place I'm willing to commit to long term. So in some aspect, I think they did a pretty good job on it, but in another one, I just tell myself they're going to be back in a tricky spot in about 3 to 4 years. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I could be very wrong. I certainly have been in the past, and I certainly will be again in the future. But I'm excited. I think this Kings team could be fun to watch. I'm just not necessarily sure they're true, contenders in the loaded West. So let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. That's going to do it for me. As always, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys all in the next one.